This video is about named segments. I'm going to begin by connecting to Strava. I'm going to open a Strava tab because that will also be useful. This is a short local loop that I ride fairly frequently, both in real life and on RGT. I would like to add some interest to it by having some named segments, and in particular, of course, a couple of climbs. So I'm going to start by adding one over here, and I happen to know that it goes roughly from there to just around the corner, and I'm not going to worry about the precision here because I'm demonstrating the principle. So in the name segment tab, I can just create from those markers, and there is my segment. You'll see the segment is highlighted, and of course, as with any other tool, that matches the color of the tool name. That is Brockley Hill, and that is one way of creating segments. If you move your pointers and you want to go back to that segment, just click on the eye and that will move the orange marker to the start and the purple marker to the end of the segment. You can also reposition those markers, say perhaps a bit further around the corner, and update that segment. I must emphasize that named segments are not structurally part of the track. These distances here are simply annotations about the track. So when you make edits, these values will not change, and therefore the start and the end points will shift around. And if you do something drastic like reverse the route of the track, then all the segments will become invalid. Therefore, the best thing to do is to put the segments on when you've finished all of the editing. Okay, another good climb on this is over here. This is, as you can see, a little bit of a haul up the hill. Not too strenuous, but I believe there is a Strava segment for it. Northwood HQ in Northwood, and that is pretty much exactly what I want. So I copied that segment number, and because I've previously logged on to Strava, opened the Strava tab, I can type in the segment URL or just the ID in there and preview the Strava segment. So there's my previewed segment, and I will paste that in. So it's come from Strava and it now appears as a named segment Northwood HQ in my file. And I'd like some more interest on this because there's a lot of empty space, and I can get that from perhaps a surprising source, land use data. If I turn the display settings on so that I can see place names, well, look at that, there's a lot of interesting places around that I could use potentially as segments, and that is what this option here does, use named places. It looks as a certain distance away from the route for places of interesting names. Let me just change the color so it's more obvious. So it is not going to replace the segments that I've put on as my feature segments, the Northwood climb or the Brockley Hill climb, but it is suggesting other segments that are close to nearby places. So for instance, if I look in over here, I will see that there is a segment for Pearwood, and you see there's Pearwood and the Cloisters, but Pearwood has won that particular battle. That is because I do not have this box ticked here. If I prefer closer places, then it will use the Cloisters instead of Pearwood. And you'll see that the Cloisters segment is shorter. The automatic segments are roughly twice as long as the distance from the place to the track, with a minimum of 50 meters. And that's a fairly simple way of adding segments to provide some local information about the route. You'll see that each time I move this marker or change the option, those segments will change. If I want to particularly like one and I don't want to lose it, okay, so this one here, the Merry Hill Fruit Field segment, let's suppose I want to keep that one. If I update it, that is now treated as if it's manually added, and when I change the sliders, you can see that one is remaining unchanged on the screen there, whether I choose further or nearer places. When I save that track, Hour of Power with segments, that will be saved as a file that you can send off to RGT, and as you can see it has many different segments in here which will show up in RGT